What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Brian, aka Monster 401, back with another video for you guys. Today, I'm going to be doing a video about the top 5 guys that I think WWE should sign. It's WrestleMania season. WrestleMania is actually next weekend, and this is the time where WWE pretty much hits the reset button. Uh, it's where a lot of the guys that are down in NXT that are currently down there in development are going to be called up to the main roster. And there's been lots of rumors of guys being called up, such as Shinsuke Nakamura, Ty Dillinger, The Revival, Elias Sampson for some awkward reason. But yeah, guys like that, they're going to be called up pretty soon. And it's going to leave pretty much a void down there in NXT. And with NXT becoming as big as it is, and all the rumors going around about Ring of Honor being picked up by WWE, which some are saying now are false, which is kind of an update from the last breaking news video that I did, I just thought it would only be right to do a video about guys that I think should be on the WWE's radar and guys that WWE should be looking into and could possibly be future stars for this company. So today, it's going to be my top 5 guys WWE should pick up. Now that I'm going to start off the video, before I begin, I really want to give a shout out to a lot of guys that I think really should be picked up by the WWE. There's a long list of guys that WWE have been scouting and have been rumored to be looking at and are interested in picking them up. There's a couple guys that I've seen, whether in person at a local show or guys that I've been hearing about a lot lately that I think should make this list. This list may be controversial, but at the same time, it's my personal opinion. Everybody has their own opinion out there, and these are guys that I definitely think would fit in the WWE if you give them the proper gimmick and storylines and stuff. But first, I want to give a shout out to these guys real quick. Let's start off with the current IWGP champion, Okada. He had what a lot of people are calling a 6-star match with a gentleman who will be on this list later on. I know I'm foreshadowing, but Okada has been like one of the top guys over in Japan for years now. He had a stint in TNA where he was Samoa Joe's like assistant wearing like the Green Lantern butler mask, and it was just really weird. But Okada is definitely somebody that WWE should be looking into. Another guy from New Japan, as you'll notice, there will be a trend. Is a guy named Shibata who has an MMA background, who's fought over in Japan for the Dream Organization, who's had MMA battles with Japanese legends like Sakuraba. Shibata is like a strong style guy, as many of you like American fans know of a guy named Shinsuke Nakamura who's down in NXT currently. He's known as the King of Strong Style. Well, Shibata is like one of the most hardest hitting guys in professional wrestling. He should definitely be getting a look from WWE. Jay Lethal, I know he signed a contract again with Ring of Honor. He is their longest reigning Ring of Honor champion in history. The guy at one point held the Ring of Honor World title as well as the tag team titles for a long period of time. An amazing wrestler, a guy that would fit great whether it's in NXT or on the SmackDown brand. He would do amazing over there. The guy is off the hook with characters. The next guy is Dalton Castle. Dalton Castle comes out with the boys. He's like the peacock. His entrance, his way of walking around the ring is so entertaining. He's a powerhouse for a guy so small. He's incredible, man. Dalton Castle is another guy, and supposedly I'm hearing his contract should be up relatively soon. Like I'm talking like mid-April soon, and all signs are pointing that he might actually come to the WWE, which would be an amazing pickup for them. Marty Scurll, the villain from the UK, he's a great guy, an amazing wrestler. He has such a heelish gimmick, such a badass gimmick. He's currently the Ring of Honor Television Champion. I know there's a pay-per-view coming up in a few weeks, right around, actually coming up next week, the day before WrestleMania. He was just at the Ring of Honor 15th anniversary show against Leo Rush and killed it there. Marty Scurll is another one of those guys, man, making his name from the UK, coming over to the United States and just blowing up. This next guy is someone that I actually seen recently at an XWA show here in Rhode Island. He is, man, if I was still wrestling and I was in better shape, this guy would be like my twin or my tag team partner, and we would destroy the world of wrestling. Um, He's a guy that goes by the name of Keith Lee. He is the 6'2", 290-pound, muscular. He looks like a football player. That's the best way I can describe it. Like he looks like an offensive lineman in the NFL. Big guy, not solid like jacked ripped muscle, but he's just like I can describe him as a thinner version of Mark Henry. But man, I'd never seen a guy that size fly around the ring. He's taking hurricanranas, reverse hurricanranas. He's diving out the ring. Like this guy is one of those dudes that you have to watch. I always tell you guys to go on YouTube, since you're on YouTube, to look up these people, man. If you get a chance, if you're a wrestling fan, look up a guy by the name of Keith Lee. The dude is amazing for a guy his size. The next guy on my honorable mentions is a guy by the name of Will Ospreay. Will Ospreay has set the wrestling world on fire over the past year. He had a controversial match, not in a bad way, but in a good way, I want to say, where a lot of fans were going on to that debate, oh, are spot fest matches, good for professional wrestling? He has a match with another person on my list, foreshadowing again, that was one of the most viewed wrestling matches in professional wrestling. He has been one of the top junior heavyweights in New Japan, has been wrestling all over the world for Ring of Honor, for WCPW, for New Japan, like I stated, Progress, ICW. Will Ospreay, man, is amazing in the ring. He's one of the best high flyers out there. The guy has like a ton of charisma for a guy his age. He's only, I believe, 23 or 24 years old, and he is making a huge name for himself in the independent wrestling world. If you get a chance, you'll look him up. I will give you guys a video for you guys to look up in a few minutes. But yeah, Will Ospreay is definitely a guy that you guys should keep an eye out for. The next person on my list, I had him actually ranked as a top 10 originally, and my number 6 and my number 7, really quick, I'm gonna flip flop them. My number 6 was gonna be Pentagon Junior / Pentagon Dark. If you ever watch the show Lucha Underground, which is on the El Rey Network, Pentagon has been like that one guy that you watch on that show and you cannot take your eyes off of him. He was doing this thing where he was snapping people's arms for a while on the first season. He had a brutal match with Vampiro at Ultima Lucha 1, where, during that time where he was snapping everybody's arms, he was about to snap a woman's arm, and Vampiro interfered. And during that time, Pentagon kept saying, I was doing this for my master, my master, my master. And then after the match with him and Vampiro, and he brutalized him, and he went and snapped Vampiro's arm, come to find out that Vampiro was actually Pentagon's master the whole time. This guy has been one of the most sought after independent wrestlers out there today. He's known for his Mexican lucha style, and I think he would look amazing down in NXT. He would be one of those guys that you would draw big numbers with. He's one of those guys, whenever he's on television, he would be must-see TV. And my number 7 pick on this list, and it's kind of messed up that I don't actually have him on my top 5, is Adam Cole. Or should I say, Adam Cole, baby. Adam Cole is a former 3-time Ring of Honor World Champion. He is one of the top young guys in the business today. He's a member of the Bullet Club with, a couple of the other guys, a few that I might have on this list, with Cody Rhodes. He was part of a group, I believe it was called Future Shock, with Kyle O'Reilly, who I stated on one of my other videos is interested in coming to WWE. Adam Cole, man, he's a total package. He's the pretty boy who can go in the ring and wrestle, get grimy and dirty with anybody. His battles with Jay Briscoe over the Ring of Honor World title, there was to a point where he literally put thumbtacks in Briscoe's mouth and super kicked the hell out of him at Final Battle a couple years ago. Adam Cole is going to be a star once he gets to WWE, and I'm saying once he gets to WWE because his contract is up pretty soon, and he's been on WWE's radar for, I want to say, 2 to 3 years now, and this guy is going to be huge once he gets to WWE. Yeah, so those are my honorable mentions. Guys, like I said, who I think should be in WWE or should be on their radar pretty soon. And now I'm going to get to my top 5. guys that I think should be in the WWE. Number 5. My number 5 guy is Ricochet. For any of you guys who watch Lucha Underground, you will know who Ricochet is. He portrayed the character of Prince Puma. He was pretty much like the crown jewel of Lucha Underground when it was first starting off. Ricochet is only 28 years old. The guy looks amazing. He's worked for companies such as Evolve, Dragon Gate USA, PWG, New Japan. The guy is super athletic. He's a great in-ring worker. If you listen to my honorable mentions, I mentioned a guy named Will Ospreay. During the Super Juniors tournament that he was in this year, or excuse me, last year in 2016, Ricochet and Will Ospreay put on one of the best matches I've seen in years, which will only be topped by another match that will be brought up on this list later on by one of the other competitors that I have on my top 5. These two guys pretty much did like an aerial athletic super high flying spot fest of a match, and not only did they do that, they did it without screwing it up. People give professional wrestling a flack about, oh, it's predetermined, it's fake, and that's a lot of the controversy that was going around with this match. Ricochet was somebody who, you know, like had a really bad reputation of just being a spot guy. But man, oh man, when it comes to in-ring performances, this guy is like never misses. Like he doesn't blow spots very often. His maneuvers are super high flying. I compare him to a guy like AJ Styles, who can work any style of match, who's strong enough to pick up heavyweights, and is quick enough to fly around with some of the cruiserweights that are out there. Some of his notable awards and titles. He won the Young Lions Cup in Chikara, an earlier part in his career. He won the King of the Gate tournament in Dragon Gate, and he was also a Grand Slam champion, holding almost every title that they have in the company. He's a two-time Lucha Underground champion. He also held the Trios title in Lucha Underground. He won the Battle of Los Angeles for PWG in 2014. He is a two-time IWGP Junior Tag Team Champion, a two-time IWGP Six-Man Tag Team Champion. He won the Best of the Super Juniors in 2014 and also won the Super Juniors Tag Team Tournament with a man by the name of Matt Sydal or Evan Bourne that people may know from WWE. I've heard for a while now, because Lucha Underground, the way they were filming the show is they film it kind of like a Spanish novella. Ricochet's character for his contract with Lucha Underground has been filmed for a certain amount of time. So until the episode where the Prince Puma character is off Lucha Underground, which from what I'm hearing should be sometime in either May or June, something like that, Prince Puma will not be able to sign with any major televised company a la the WWE. So around midsummer time, you might hear a lot of the rumors being spread that WWE is taking a look at Ricochet. But from what I've been hearing, guys like William Regal, a lot of the guys down at NXT, Norman Smiley, they've been really big on Ricochet. Triple H has seen him in a couple of matches, and I know if Triple H is definitely interested in him, which you'll hear a lot on this list, that it's a pretty good sign that he may be coming to WWE. So yeah, my number 5 on this list is Ricochet / Prince Puma. Don't be surprised if you hear or see him in the WWE very, very soon. Okay, now to number 4 on my list. My number 4 guy is Tetsuya Naito. Tetsuya Naito is 34 years old. He's a wrestler from New Japan Pro Wrestling. He has held the IWGP Heavyweight title, the IC title, the Juniors title, the Tag title, the Never Openweight title. He's won the New Japan Cup as of last year, 2016, and the G1 Climax in 2013. Naito is one of those super heels. I guess earlier on in his stay in New Japan, he was just another guy. He was, winning matches, but, he was just another stale Japanese wrestler. And recently in Japan, a lot of these guys have been developing characters. Like Nakamura, if you look at Nakamura from like the early 2000s and you look at the Nakamura that's in WWE and NXT right now, he's a completely different guy. Naito ended up going to Japan and working for the CMLL promotion, and went out there and learned a lot. Like most of these guys that you'll notice on this list, and a lot of independent wrestlers out there, they do travel to a lot of different countries. Like you'll notice on my list, a majority of these guys either work in Japan, England, or around the United States. But in Japan and in Mexico especially, professional wrestling is perceived as more of a legitimate sport compared to us in America, where we look at it, it's fake, it's predetermined, they're not hurting each other, blah, blah, blah. You go anywhere else in the world, professional wrestling is just as big as professional football is in America, or basketball, or baseball, or MMA. Um, so when Naito went to Japan, he went and wrestled, like I said, for CMLL, and he developed a whole new persona. He developed this badass, unruly, does not give a flying, you know what attitude. The guy literally walks to the ring right now in New Japan and holds his title backwards. How, a lot of us complain about Roman Reigns when he was holding the U.S. belt like this over his shoulder and the belt was back there. Naito literally takes the belt and just throws it in the ring like 30 steps away from actually hitting the ring itself. Doesn't care. He's spitting on people. He throws his jacket around. He does this little thing where his eyes, where he goes like this, and it's super funny. But Naito became like a monster when he came back to New Japan. He's the leader of a group called, don't kill me on my Spanish, excuse me, I screwed up already. Los Ingobernables de Japan, the unruly Japan, from what I see from the translation. Naito in WWE would fit perfectly as a great badass heel. Um, Pretty much the guy that a lot of us want Roman Reigns to be. Naito is pretty much doing that in Japan. The badass, don't care attitude who will beat you up. He can fly around the ring. He's not a super tall guy. I want to say he's about 6 feet tall, or maybe 5'11". I know an inch sometimes does bother people. But he's a guy, man, that would really do good as a super badass heel in the WWE, especially the foreign heat that WWE likes to portray, like they do with Rusev or with Sheamus when he was first coming out. The foreigners who come to our land and they're disrespectful. Naito would be great at that, man. He would fit in perfectly. And, his finishing moves are Destino, which is a reverse backflip DDT, similar for AJ Styles fans, where he springboards off the rope, lands backwards and hooks your head in DDT form and drops you down. He has a submission hold of the Koji Clutch, where I don't know if anybody watches Sami Zayn, where he like grabs you by the neck, pulls you back, hooks his leg over your neck, and also grabs you in some type of like a chokehold, kind of like a weird version of a triangle. And he also has the Stardust Press, which is basically a corkscrew moonsault off the top rope. Yeah, Tatsumi Naito would be amazing in WWE or NXT. I would keep him more down in NXT for a little while. I would see him have great feuds with guys like Bobby Roode or Andrade Cien Almas, or guys like Kenta, who's down there, aka I don't even remember what his name is anymore. But yeah, Kenta, who's down in NXT. You have guys like Chris Hero that are down there, who's now Cassius Ohno. Yeah, he would fit great in NXT, man. He'd be one of those guys that would draw those big crowds, especially with fans like us who love the Japanese wrestlers. It would be amazing to have a guy like him out there. I would be a huge fan. I would love to see a guy like him in NXT. All right, now it's time for the good stuff. Number 3 on my list, there are actually 2 guys. They are the Young Bucks, aka the Super Kick Party. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the Young Bucks are on my list. For anybody who's an independent wrestling fan or who watches wrestling outside of the WWE, you know who the Young Bucks are. These guys, man, they've won tag team titles every single place that they have gone to. They're 2 brothers, Matt and Nick Jackson. Matt with the black hair, for those of you who don't really know them by who they are. Matt is 32 years old. Nick is the younger brother. He's the blonde-haired one. He is 27 years old. These 2 guys have been compared to the Hardys throughout their career. Pretty much the same look, same thing. One's named Matt. Matt's the older brother. These 2 guys have worked for so many companies. It's not even funny. They've worked for PWG. They've worked for Dragon Gate in Japan. They worked for Dragon Gate USA in the USA. They worked for Chikara. They wrestled in TNA as Generation Me. They've worked at Ring of Honor and New Japan, which the last two are pretty much their home companies right now. These two guys are the stars currently of the Bullet Club. The Bullet Club being one of the biggest groups over in Japan. These guys are probably the highest selling merchandise wrestlers outside of the WWE. Their shirts are ridiculous. They have like so many designs on ProWrestlingTees.com. Um, they're the ones who make the Bullet Club shirts famous. If you've ever seen the Bullet Club shirts, these guys pretty much have like locked down the market on that. They have been known as spot monkeys because a lot of their matches are repetitive. But just like guys like Ricochet that I brought up earlier, they don't really blow spots. They pretty much have a set move set and they bust them out every single time. But man, you see these guys live, you will be screaming holy shit every single match. These guys went over to Japan and made a huge name for themselves, especially with foreigners coming there. It's kind of like foreigners coming here where it takes a while to earn that type of respect from that type of crowd. But the Young Bucks, man, their fast-paced matches, their high-flying abilities made them huge over there. The recognition they've been getting in America, from Ring of Honor, from PWG. I know they worked in NWA for a little while as probably the best tag team in professional wrestling. I've heard interviews with many wrestling superstars. One in particular, a wrestler by the name of Bully Ray, aka Bubba Ray Dudley. He's currently now a host for the show Busted Open that I watch, or excuse me, that I listen to during the day while I'm working. He's even said it that the Young Bucks are the best tag team in professional wrestling today. Coming from a guy who is the most, or one half of the most decorated tag team in professional wrestling history in the Dudley Boys, it's a huge honor. Their finishing moves, they have this move called the Indie Taker, which is basically Matt would hold the guy as if he's about to do the tombstone, similar to the Undertaker's, and Nick would springboard from the ropes and bounce all the way across the ring and spike him down while he's coming down with the tombstone pile driver. They have another variation of it called the Meltzer driver, which is the same setup. Matt would hold the guy, and while Nick springboards, instead of just doing a straight jump and spiking him down, Nick does a front flip similar to a 450, and then at the last second grabs you and spikes you down. Um, their main finishing move that they've been known for has been more bang for your buck. Matt would grab a guy, throw him on his shoulders, do a rolling senton. Nick would already be on the top rope at the corner that he's going to. Nick would do a swanton, and I'm sorry, he would do a 450, and then Matt would come off the top ropes and do a moonsault backflip on the guy. These guys, as you can see, by the way, I'm describing some of their moves. They're really high flyers, but what they're really known for is their super kicks. These guys love to throw super kicks, whether it's a low super kick, a stomach super kick, a high super kick, double super kicks, corner super kicks, triple super kicks, quadruple super kicks. They literally, there's a video online if you look up the super kick party from the Young Bucks where they went on an 8-minute super kick spree, super kicking every person around ringside, whether it was the guys in the rings, the referees, the camera people, the people holding, who are used to in Ring of Honor to clean up the streamers when they're being thrown. They super kick them. They super kick one of the announcers. Then they super kick another announcer. They're super kicking everybody. It is awesome and entertaining at the same time. The Young Bucks, man, they may be on the smaller end, but these guys win. Their title histories, aside from all the ones from all over the world, I'm going to go for a lot of the notable ones. They are two-time Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions. They are five-time IWGP Junior Tag Team Champions. And they also won the Super Junior Tag Team Tournament in 2013 and the Never Open Six-Man Tag Team titles in New Japan. These young guys have been on the WWE radar for a while. They've been offered contracts by the WWE a few times, and they've chosen not to accept it. Because for some independent guys, if you sell enough merch, get enough bookings, especially with the international stuff, you can make a pretty good living compared to guys that are down in NXT who are on development contracts. So yeah, but the Young Bucks, I don't see them staying in NXT long. If they were to get picked up by WWE, I would see those guys on the main roster probably. I know it's bullying up the SmackDown brand, but they'd probably be better off on SmackDown. You know, with teams like the Usos, which would be a great feud. With the rumor of the Revival going up to SmackDown, that would be a great feud. And a little kicker of the whole thing is in the Bullet Club, they have a group called the Elite with a third member. That third member and the Young Bucks have been going back and forth for, I want to say, a little over a year now with the New Day in WWE. And they've been ripping on each other. If you listen to some of the old New Day interviews, they throw the word elite around. They've called people Young Bucks before. The Young Bucks have a YouTube channel with the Elite, and they literally do a skit where they come out wearing New Day shirts at a Ring of Honor show. It's hilarious. These guys are a trip. They're media moguls. They have huge followers. The Young Bucks would be amazing and do stellar in the WWE. So that is my number 3 pick. Now, backing up my number 3 pick will be my number 2 pick. And similar to the Young Bucks, the next person at number 2 is the cleaner Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega, the current leader of the Bullet Club. He is also, quote unquote, part of the Elites with the Young Bucks. Aside, it's pretty much their like sub faction from the Bullet Club. Kenny Omega originally started out as somewhat of a comedy wrestler with PWG, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, and in the DDT promotion in Japan. Kenny Omega is a guy who, like I said, with the comedy gimmick, he's if you search him on the internet, you will find some of his interesting stuff. In Japan, they have this thing where they have a doll. It's kind of, it looks like a blow-up doll, let's be honest, but it's a doll. And you know, they like a kind of a way of initiating people in DDT was to have somebody fight the doll. If you ever hear old school fans and old school wrestlers say a person is so good that they can wrestle a broomstick, in Japan they actually use, instead of a broomstick, a doll. Kenny Omega put an amazing match on with this doll. I know it sounds stupid. YouTube it, you will find it. Another thing Kenny Omega is very famous for is, don't get me twisted, he wrestles a 9-year-old girl in New Japan. Yes, it is a must-watch. If you haven't seen it, please look it up. It is entertaining as hell. Kenny Omega, man, he is super charismatic, super funny. But the cleaner gimmick that he's doing right now in New Japan is something totally different. Yes, he does still have his smart-ass remarks. But at the same time, Kenny Omega has just been one of those guys that's been on the tip of every wrestling fan's tongue for years now. He's actually wrestled down in OVW for WWE back in the day before NXT was being built up and before FCW or Deep South was even around. Kenny Omega is, let me see, where can I go from here with Kenny Omega? Because there's so much about this guy. I'll just give you some of the stats on him. He's worked for Ring of Honor. He's had matches with guys like, you know, Bryan Danielson, aka American Dragon, aka Daniel Bryan. Colt Cabana was one of his tag team partners for a while. You know, he literally made his biggest name when he went over to Japan. This is a guy who's worked in Japan for so long that not only is he a mainstay in New Japan, but he's very fluent in Japanese. He's one of the very few American wrestlers who can go overseas and actually, you know, speak with the crowd and the crowd understands him. Aside from his heelish promos while he's in the Bullet Club, you know, speaking in English, but he can actually go and speak in Japanese and the fans relate to him more. That's why he's become such a huge star over there. As I stated before, he's actually the current leader of the Bullet Club in Japan. Some of the former leaders you guys may know. Carl Anderson and Prince Devitt, aka Finn Balor, were the guys who originally founded the Bullet Club. And once they were leaving, another guy stepped up, and his name was AJ Styles. And AJ Styles took over the Bullet Club. And then once it was his time to go, Kenny Omega pretty much took over the reins of the Bullet Club, where they jumped him out of the group. And he declared himself the new leader of the Bullet Club. For those of you who don't know who the Bullet Club are, they're basically the Japanese version, and I know this is going to be contradictory for real wrestling fans. They're the Japanese version of what the NWO was to WCW or what DX is to WWE. When he became the leader of the Bullet Club, Kenny Omega, with this cleaner gimmick, He originally was coming to New Japan to clean out the Super Juniors division, which is kind of like what the Cruiserweight division would be in WWE. He came in there and he cleaned out pretty much the whole juniors division. And then he wanted to be one of the first foreigners to go from a junior division up into the heavyweight division, because there is that, the difference in weight classes in Japan, and people do respect that. He won the G1 Climax. He won the never openweight six-man tag team championship with the Young Bucks. He was a former the junior heavyweight champion in IWGP, and former IWGP IC champion, defeating Nakamura for the title. And Kenny Omega, like I said earlier with one of my honorable mentions with Okada, this year main evented their version of WrestleMania, which is known as Wrestle Kingdom. And in that match, it was considered the first match since WrestleMania 3 anywhere in the world to receive a 6-star match. Now, this is where as a fan of wrestling, I'm not huge on the star rating. I can respect some people saying this is a 6-star, this is a 5-star. 5 stars is usually the standard of like the best wrestling matches in the world. So if you're getting a 6-star, you literally put on one of the greatest matches of all time. The only other 6-star match that I know that is on record is the WrestleMania 3 match between Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and Macho Man Randy Savage. When I was actually training, one of the people at my school, one of my trainers would always tell me, if you want to learn the basics and how to, start, like to build a match from start to finish, they always would tell me to go back and watch that match. As a wrestling fan today, now that I'm older, and I'm not really trying to be a wrestler anymore, I'm just a fan, I'm just enjoying what I watch now. If you haven't seen this Wrestle Kingdom match versus Okada and Kenny Omega, it's on YouTube. Please watch it. It is indeed incredible. I don't know if it's a 6-star match per se, but I will say this match is awesome. It is something that you don't even have to be a wrestling fan to enjoy. It's a very long match. It's almost an hour long. But the story of the match is basically, he's a junior trying to fight a heavyweight for their title. He has one finisher move that he wants to hit the entire match. Obviously, Okada has won, spoiler alert. But throughout the match, all Kenny is trying to mainly do is hit his finishing move, which his finisher is known as the one-wing angel. Basically, he puts somebody up. If you, like, when you were younger, if you were ever in a pool, you put someone up on your shoulders, have their legs up here, and they'd be up here, like you're playing chicken with somebody. Basically, with that move, Kenny would hook their legs from here, take one arm and grab their head and pull them and flip them down at the same time and drive their head into the mat. It's a devastating move, don't get me wrong. But basically, for the whole match, he was chasing that one move, hoping that this one move, if he was to hit it, he would become the new IWGP Heavyweight Champion. And that title is very rare for foreigners to win. The only notable foreigners that I can recall off the top of my head, there are more. I know there's not many, but there's a few. Brock Lesnar is a former IWGP Heavyweight Champion. Kurt Angle went over there and fought for that title. Hulk Hogan, back in the 80s, held that title. There's not many foreigners to come overseas to win this title. And just so you know, Kenny Omega is from Canada. Yes, we consider him an American wrestler, but he's really Canadian. He's been the name on the tip of everybody's tongue. There was rumors going around about him around the time of WrestleMania. I know he did re-sign with New Japan for a year, so maybe around this time next year, before WrestleMania, Kenny will be available and would be a humongous pickup for the WWE if they're able to get him. So that is my number 2 on the list. Okay, now it's time for number 1 on my list. This is a guy that not many people may know, not many people have seen, and he is probably the hidden gem of professional wrestling, especially on the indies today. His name is the King of Bros, Matt Riddle. Now, some of you may have heard the name Matt Riddle before. He is a former UFC fighter. He was on season 7 of The Ultimate Fighter show, back when it was actually good. Currently, he's 31 years old. He has a very laid-back Cali surfer dude attitude, but he is a legit badass. On the show, when he was on The Ultimate Fighter, he was actually trained and coached by Rampage Jackson, who gave him the nickname Chipper. Because every time you saw Matt Riddle, he always had this weird, huge smile on his face, man. Like, man. If you ever watch the show or the movie Half Baked and you remember the guy Brian, he was like, fully, man. Yeah. I know I'm not really that good at, doing impersonations, but that would be Matt Riddle to a T. He is the king of bros. Like, he's a bro. Like, bro. Um, let's see. When he was an MMA fighter, he was actually in the UFC. He got picked up. His record when he left MMA was 8 wins, 3 losses, and 2 no contests. His 3 losses, one was by knockout, and 2 of them were by decision. And a lot of people say that one of his decisions could have gone either way. Um, he fought for the UFC until about 2013. He was let go from the UFC on a 4-fight win streak. 4-fight win streak. In the UFC nowadays, if you've won 2 or 3 fights, you're a title contender. This kid was on a 4-fight win streak. But as Stephen A would say, he couldn't stay off the weed. Guy likes to smoke weed. Bro. He started training to become a professional wrestler around 2014 and ended up debuting in February of 2015. Yes, I know. He is my number 1 on this list. He was trained at a place called the Monster Factory, which gave us a lot of famous professional wrestlers. I'm going to throw out a couple names. A guy by the name of Sheamus, who works for WWE. Sanjay Dutt, former X Division competitor in TNA. Raven, ECW World Champion, has a long lineage in wrestling. D'Lo Brown, one of my personal favorites from when I was younger. The Big Show, Chris Candido, and Bam Bam Bigelow. Those are guys that are all trained at this Monster Factory. He's currently a member of a group by the name of Catchpoint, which is a stable of a few of the top indie guys out there and a couple guys that are in WWE's Cruiserweight division, like TJ Perkins, Drew Gulak, and another guy by the name of Tim Thatcher, who should have been on this list, and I completely forgot about him until now. I apologize. Tim Thatcher is amazing. He was one of the best Evolve champions out there. Yeah, I really should have had him on this list now that I think about it, but it's my list. Who cares? Let's see. He's wrestled for a lot of different companies. Speaking of which, one of my local companies here in Rhode Island, Beyond Wrestling. He's wrestled for WXW. He recently just debuted in WCPW out in the UK. He's worked in Progress, and his mainstay has been Evolve. Those names and the reason why he's number 1 has to do a lot with his positioning in the wrestling business right now. For those of you who follow WWE closely, and you'll notice, like I said, a lot of the guys from the Cruiserweight Classic and the Cruiserweight division right now, a lot of those guys work for Evolve. And the UK tournament that just recently happened in the WWE, where Tyler Bate is currently the world champion, a lot of those guys came from ICW and Progress. And a couple of the other guys from the tournament came from WCPW. Now, Evolve and Progress are directly working with WWE right now when it comes to scouting talent and picking guys up outside from Ring of Honor and guys who are out in TNA and in Japan. So WWE has a faster access to picking these guys up and can literally throw them on television just like that. And a guy like Matt Riddle, even though he's young and a lot of people consider green, this guy in a span of about a year or 2 has become one of the best professional wrestlers out there. If you haven't watched a Matt Riddle match or haven't had a chance to see any of his work, please Google Matt Riddle, watch his matchups, and you tell me this kid is not a future star. Everything about him, his attitude, his look, the way he comes to the ring, the fans love him. He draws you in. He's that, like, bro, he's like the dude from the Jersey Shore that you actually want to chill with. He's not the situation. He's more Paulie D and Vinny combined, but with a West Coast attitude, if you get what I'm saying. He's currently right now the Progress Atlantis champion over there. I don't really have the information on who he defeated for the title, but I know it's with Progress and with WWE really looking at him. To hold a title in that company right now is definitely one of those things that will get you noticed. I know a lot of wrestlers from interviews and a lot of executives have talked about Matt Riddle recently. They're saying that he is definitely the future of this business. When it comes to his in-ring work, and I know this is going to be some, high praise for the kid, he has been compared to, not by me, by these other performers, people who are in the ring, people who work with this kid, who've actually had a chance to watch him. He's been compared to guys like Nakamura, Brock Lesnar, and Kurt Angle. And with Brock and Kurt Angle being a former Olympian and being a guy who won NCAA championships and transitioned to the world of professional wrestling, they have stated that nobody has been able to pick up professional wrestling as quickly as Matt Riddle has. And they're saying that in 2 to 3 years, this guy will definitely be in the WWE. Honestly, I'm saying it could be sooner. This guy has been traveling around the world for the past year or so. He's been getting matches with some of the biggest names in professional wrestling, whether it's in Japan, whether it's in Progress, whether it's in WCPW. Um, Supposedly, he might be working with Ring of Honor pretty soon. I've been hearing rumors about that. And in the world of professional wrestling right now, there's only one huge major market. I pray to God he doesn't go to TNA because that is a shit show within itself. But Matt Riddle to go to the WWE and get picked up by him at such a, like with not a lot of time in the wrestling business within itself, he could be one of the next biggest stars. And I would love to see him in the ring with guys like AJ. I would love to see him with Samoa Joe. I would love to see him wrestle Brock Lesnar or Nakamura. I'm talking stiff shots. Like, and because they're MMA fighters and they're trained in that style, they're not afraid to get hit. And with WWE now, legitimacy with a lot of those names is something that's really, really big. And Matt Riddle could be a humongous star in the WWE. He has the laid back attitude. He could be a huge babyface, similar to what Rob Van Dam was when he was the 420 weed smoking guy in ECW who never lost. And Matt Riddle's win loss record in professional wrestling, I think to this day, only has about 4 losses in any company in the past 2 years since he debuted. That just shows you what these companies think of a guy like this. So that was my number one, the King of Bros, Matt Riddle. I told y'all on my Facebook, if anybody who follows me or knows me on Facebook, I told you number one, you would not see it coming, and I'm assuming a lot of you people didn't. Then again, it's my list. I can say what I want. Thank you everybody for watching the video. This is your boy Monstar 401. It's WrestleMania week, so there's going to be a lot of news, a lot of predictions coming up, and the show itself. This is going to be a crazy week for wrestling fans, so hopefully this video does it for you guys. I will be back soon. I will definitely be posting more stuff. I'm going to be working on a Twitter account. I'm going to have some logos and designs coming up pretty soon from one of my friends. I'm still learning this video editing process, so please excuse me. I don't have a lot of time. I try to do this when I can. But yeah, I enjoy making these videos. This is something that I really love doing, and I'm just going to keep doing it for you guys, man. Thank you again. I really appreciate all the love and support, and